Welcome to another episode of A Year in a Day in a Life of Anton Bruckner, where we go through each month looking at the works that were performed, or he began writing or completed writing. So on the 19th of September in 1843 was the first performance of the cantata An dem Feste, which in English is At the Feast. On the 20th, there is the first performance of Symphony No. 4 in its original 1874 version, as recently as 1975. The 21st of September saw the completion of the first movement of Symphony No. 9 in 1887. On the 23rd and 24th of September was the commencement of Symphony No. 7 in 1881, and on the 24th of September, 2 years prior to that, in 1879, was the commencement of Symphony No. 6. Now, this is the interesting thing with Bruckner. His symphony cycle is very consistent, and it's actually in Bruckner's hands, the dates of all these things. So, he's commenced Symphony No. 7 on the 23rd of September. That is only 20 days after he had completed Symphony No. 6 on the 3rd of September, both in 1881. Now, the work I'd like to focus on in this video is a very interesting work called a Symphonic Prelude, which has a very interesting history. Just before we come to that, though, I forgot to open this video. We're talking about this piece of art we have here. Once again, it is by living artist from Canada, Sophie Gervais, and the piece is entitled For the Love of Flowers, and it is an acrylic. So the Symphonic Preludes, its catalogue number is WAB-ART. It's sort of one of the highest numbered in the Bruckner total output catalogue. The Symphonic Prelude in C minor, it's an orchestral composition by Anton Bruckner, composed in 1876. Heinrich Tschuppik, who found the orchestral score of the work in an estate of Bruckner's pupil Rudolf Krzyzanowski, I hope I've pronounced that right, attributed the authorship to Bruckner. But 30 years later, Mahler scholar Paul Banks, who only knew a 4-stave reduction of the work, proposed that the work might be attributed to Mahler, to Gustav Mahler. It was certainly written by Bruckner or one of his students. That is clearly established. But all from this, it may be by Mahler, conjecture, has given this piece of music a very interesting history. So it was after the Second World War that Heinrich Tschuppik discovered a 43-page long manuscript of an unknown overture-like symphonic movement in C minor in the estate of his uncle Rudolf Krzyzanowski. The manuscript carries the inscription Rudolf Krzyzanowski, and then it's COP.1876. I presume that means copied or copy on the first page. And the last page in large blue letters has von Anton Bruckner, by Anton Bruckner. It could have ended there and been settled just on that, but the story has a few more twists to it. Krzyzanowski was a pupil of Anton Bruckner, and it was it was he, together with Gustav Mahler, who prepared in 1877 the piano four-hand transcription of Bruckner's Third Symphony following that disastrous premiere. That was something of a bit of a disappointment and humiliation to Bruckner. Bruckner was not renowned for being a very good conductor of orchestra. He was certainly a very good conductor when it came to choirs and choruses, but not of orchestras. It's said that he lacked confidence. I feel there was probably a lot of nervous anticipation. Bruckner realized that his music was so different, so I can't say revolutionary, but more evolutionary compared to other music during its time. Anyway, back to the story. Tschuppik reported his finding to the Schweizerische Musikszeitung and in the Süddeutsche Zeitung prepared a clean copy of the score and handwritten orchestral parts, and arranged also a four-stave particello of it. A copy of the manuscript was also made for storing in the Austrian National Library. Tschuppik showed the piece to experts on Bruckner, Max Auer and Franz Greiflinger. Sorry, that's Greiflinger. And conductor Volkmar Andreu. Andreu agreed to perform this unknown symphonic prelude with the Vienna Philharmonic. However, the performance, which had been planned for the 23rd of January 1949, did not take place because Leopold Novak, who was asked for his expertise, had not come to a final conclusion about the authorship of the piece. So the premiere took place by the Munich Philharmonic under Fritz Rieger, I think that's pronounced, or Rieger, on the 7th of September in 1949. Shortly after this, Tschuppik died, and his clean copy, handwritten orchestral parts, and a photocopy of the four-stave particello remained stored in the archive of the Munich Philharmonic. A photocopy of the original manuscript remained in Novak's possession and was returned to the Austrian National Library after his death in May 1991. Novak had not included the Symphonic Prelude in Bruckner's total works because he still doubted its authorship. Tschuppik had also given a copy of his particello arrangement of this prelude to Gertrude Stauber-Schlepfer, I think that's pronounced, in Zurich. Stauber-Schlepfer wrote on top of the particello, "Could this perhaps be composed by Gustav Mahler for his examination?" Krzyzanowski edited the piano arrangement of Bruckner's Third Symphony, second version, together with Mahler. So 30 years later, Mahler scholar Paul Banks discovered in the Austrian National Library the particello annotated by Stauber-Schlepfer, and followed her suggestion, assuming that the piece could indeed be one of the lost works that Mahler had composed during his time at the Vienna Conservatory. Since the particello was the only known source, Berlin composer Albrecht Gershwin was asked to complement the instrumentation. So a reconstruction was first performed by the Berlin Radio Symphony Orchestra under Lawrence Foster on the 15th of March 1881 as Symphonische Präludium by Gustav Mahler. you'll find in the playlist there is it's roughly about 6.5 minutes of duration, and there is also another one of 8.5 minutes. It is this reconstructed version which is the longer of the two. Personally, I find that the shorter 6.5 minute one sounds far more the hand of Bruckner, and we'll come on a little bit more about that. In 1985, Wolfgang Hittl discovered the document stored in the archive of the Munich Philharmonic. He bought Krzyzanowski's original manuscript from Tschuppik's family and let it be published by Doblinger. Nevertheless, not everyone became convinced that the piece was originated by Bruckner, so the controversial piece has remained rarely performed. Perhaps in the Bruckner200 celebrations, we will find that this work, a very fascinating insight of what might have been another symphony of Bruckner, will become more widely accepted. So in 2008, Wolfgang Hittl died unexpectedly. And Krzyzanowski's original manuscript of the Symphonic Prelude ended up on a garbage slope of his apartment. Wolfgang Hittl, who had undertook a meticulous examination of the 293-bar long manuscript, in light of Bruckner's contemporary pieces, came to the conclusion that the most likely assumption would be that Bruckner had given a score to Krzyzanowski, perhaps as an exercise in instrumentation. It seems clear that the entire musical substance was by Bruckner himself, most likely as an emerging autograph score with all string parts, some important lines for woodwind and brass, and perhaps a few passages already entirely completed. So now it does look more as if it is a partly completed work as an exercise in instrumentation. The Krzyzanowski copy is laid out for a typical Bruckner orchestra of double woodwind, 4 horns, 2 trumpets, 3 trombones, a bass tuba, timpani and strings. This is the orchestration that Bruckner used for his 5th symphony, composed in 1875 to 1876, which he then revised between 1877 and 1878. So this Symphonic Prelude sits right in the middle of that period of the 5th Symphony. So just to end this here, it seems indeed clear from Hittl's stylistic examination that the musical material itself is all Bruckner's, because some of these ideas even anticipate some music from the 9th Symphony, composed some 25 years later, which nobody can have known already in 1876. In all, this symphonic prelude constitutes an extremely advanced experimental sonata form with a dramatic, almost radical second part, combining development, recapitulation and coda to a unified and radical second part. The musical language and structure anticipate much of Bruckner's last composition, the symphonic choral work Helgoland. Now, when I say last completed work, this is written subsequent to the more recent findings concerning Bruckner's 9th Symphony finale. We'll come on to that in a future video. I have talked about this already, but I shall put both the symphonic preludes, the original and the reconstructed, they're in playlists, but I'll add them in the description to this video so they're easier for you to find, and have a listen to it and see for yourself, does it sound like Bruckner to you? Personally, I think it does. Personally, I think it is all Bruckner's work in the shorter one. The second, slightly longer version, yes, that would seem to be, as the work was intended, as an exercise in instrumentation. But it is a fascinating piece, and it is like quite a number of Bruckner's works. The first performance are many decades after the passing of Anton Bruckner. But it all helps keeps this fascinating story alive and very much in the moment. It is interesting to see what will be performed in the Bruckner200 year of 2024. It would be nice that perhaps some of the rarer pieces that Bruckner composed will actually get an airing and even recorded. I'm sure record companies, being business models, will want to cash in on the celebrations, but that is not meant in a negative way. That is meant in a excited way, that it, in this day and age, it gives us a chance to actually hear the music for ourselves. Even if we cannot get to a concert, there are different mediums, recordings of either live or studio recordings, so we can still hear this music rather than just read about it in various texts. So I hope you have found this video interesting, picking one of the rarer pieces of Bruckner. I feel it does need to be given more of an airing. It all helps build on the rich tapestry of his musical development as a composer, and this one sort of foreshadows the Ninth Symphony in places, which is very interesting as well. So until the next time, have a beautiful, beautiful day, and most of all, enjoy the music.